So Jackie's going to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing over the last 2.5 years, and then when she's done, I'll come up and tell you what we're looking forward to in the future.
Okay, hi. Yes, I'm Jackie. My husband, Beau. We've got 5 kids. About 3 years ago, we left Minnesota. We left our life and moved to the country of Angola, Africa. It was our first time experiencing life overseas, first time in missions. Our hearts are to build authentic, true relationships with people that have not yet been seen or touched, and are not necessarily welcome to go into churches and to be able to be a part of things where they would hear the gospel or that Jesus sees them and loves them.
And after all this, she went on and allegedly put a hit on her husband in conjunction with her boyfriend to have him eliminated. I just don't understand this. But like I said in my previous video, there is an African proverb that if an insect will bite you, then chances are that that insect was in your clothing. That was how come it was able to have access to you to bite you. And it translates as it's usually those who are close to you who will get the opportunity to hurt you beyond your wildest imaginations. Now, today's true crime story is coming from the country of Angola in Africa. But then, the victim is an American, a former police officer, and the suspects are his wife, who is also an American, and both of them were missionaries here on the continent to promote the gospel of God. Yeah, hallelujah, amen. And the other suspects are Africans. Now, by the time we get into this case, you will see how consistently it exemplifies this proverb that I keep repeating to you. That proverb has stood the test of time. And let's get into the case. So, the couple you saw is American pastor by name Beau Shroyer and his wife called Jackie Shroyer. Now, Beau and Jackie have been married, they have 5 kids, and they were originally resident in Minnesota in the US of A. But as of 2021, they sold all their assets and they relocated to Angola in Africa to take up missionary assignments along with their 5 children. So they basically just up and left Minnesota, USA after they allegedly disposed of their belongings to relocate to Angola in Africa to promote the gospel of God. And that is a very honorable gesture, honestly, because in these days and times, you don't often see this from a lot of people. But you know, when it comes to missionary work, it requires a lot of self-sacrifice to the point that you can't be tied to material things, you can't be tied to certain pleasures of the world. Your first point is being tied to the gospel of God, and it creates that hunger and commitment and responsibility to you that you have that task of promoting it to every corner of the world. So it looks like that was the decision that Beau and his wife, Jackie Shroyer, had taken. Now, when they got to Angola, obviously, they would need to gel and merge with the community to be able to do their work. And given the fact that they are also new to the continent, they would need to assimilate certain things. So it is only natural that when they came, they also got some people to work with them. I wouldn't say for them, or maybe for them and with them, because at a point they appointed a security man called Elias Bernardino, who was just 24 years old. Now, the security man by name Elias Bernardino could easily pass off as maybe the child of Jackie Shroyer, because Jackie was 44 years old and Elias was 24 years old. That's about 20 years difference. So you'd expect, that the relationship would be more of maybe that of a mother and a son, or an auntie and maybe a nephew of a sort. And they got along very well. The Shroyers, their security man, and other people, other personnel that they were working with in their missionary work, everything was good from 2021 through to October 2024, when at the point their missionary work seemed to have gotten to a point where it seems like their work was done. They had been around the country, they had done so much for children, they had, the usual missionary stuff, spreading the gospel through love and good gestures towards the indigents. And there are several pictures of them going about their missionary work, just trying to do good in the name of God, which is very honorable. But you see, there is always evil around. Nobody has actually seen the devil himself before. Evil manifests in the form of people. The devil is usually the next person to you. It's usually the person standing beside you, or sometimes even yourself to somebody else, depending on what you decide to do against that person. So for Beau Shroyer, he was okay. He was happy being with his family, doing this work. But little did he know what was going to befall him, because per the plans he had with his wife, he was going to return back to the US with his family. They were all going back to Minnesota, where they came from, because their missionary work was done. And they were leaving as early as October 2024. Everything seemed nice and good up until on this fateful day in October. Beau Shroyer got a call in the evening from Elias Bernardino, his security man, that they were having some vehicle challenges somewhere in some lonely part of town. And so, being the good guy that he is, Beau Shroyer decided he was coming over to come and help. Now, Beau was there with his wife, at which point his wife, Jackie, allegedly indicated that she wanted to attend to nature's call to probably pee in a bush nearby. And this is quite normal in some parts of remote Africa, so don't be surprised if you hear these things. And this left Beau Shroyer alone with Elias Bernardino at the vehicle. And Elias was behaving allegedly as though he was trying to fix some problem and he was really at it and all. Little did Beau Shroyer know that the end was near for him, and that he was on his way, on a one-way ticket to meet his maker. Because before Beau Shroyer could say Jack, two men from nowhere accosted them, and without provocation, they just started inflicting knife wounds on Beau Shroyer alone for some strange reason. So one would have thought, is this a robbery? Well, but at the end of it, they made sure that they had eliminated Beau Shroyer. They had unalived him on the spot. They took his life and they just ran away, leaving Elias Bernardino standing by the corpse of Beau Shroyer with his wife still in the bush, peeping or weeing or peeing, whichever way you decide to call it. And this is where the whole thing begins to seem a bit odd. Didn't she hear the noise? Didn't she see anything? Or maybe she heard it, but she was scared and she hid. That would make sense. Then investigation started. And as always, you, the people who are around or were around when the crime happened, definitely you would have questions to answer. because the detectives did their checks. They checked everything and noticed that nothing was taken from the crime scene. All the valuables of Beau Shroyer and Jackie Shroyer were intact. Even Elias Bernardino, whatever he had on him, was intact. He wasn't robbed as well. Nobody stole anything. Nothing was missing from the crime scene. So then it begs the question, could this be really a robbery? Because if it was a robbery, then definitely something should have been taken. Maybe the car was faulty, so they wouldn't take the car, but at least a mobile phone, his wallet, some cash, his jewelry, everything was intact. So it would now begin to seem like, no, this couldn't be about a robbery, because after all, nothing was taken, but a man was killed. That would now make it seem more like a hit, because if they intended to rob, they would have taken something. And per the account that Elias gave to the police, there wasn't any instance where Beau at any time tried to struggle with the assailants. So what would even warrant him being attacked and knife wounds inflicted on him, leading to his demise? It just didn't add up. And in any investigation, when the things you are seeing don't add up, it means there is more yet to be uncovered. And that was exactly the route the detectives took with the case. They kept pressing Jackie Shroyer and Elias Bernardino because they were the only survivors. And for Jackie Shroyer, someone would say, oh, she's a white person in Africa, she'll be given special treatment. I don't know about that, honestly. Some people are putting it that way. I don't know about that. I think that the security agencies are mostly impartial, irrespective of race or color. If you disagree, you can let me know in the comment section. But I don't know about that. But Elias Bernardino was being pressed harder, allegedly, by the detectives because, and I would understand it, because he, first of all, was the security man. He's the one to protect the guy who has just been murdered. And he was standing with him when he was murdered. And there was no attack towards Elias Bernardino. That could mean one of two things. Or possibly even three things, one of three things. The first being that he's the luckiest man in Angola, and the people who attacked Beau Shroyer just decided, we won't touch this guy, we like him so much, we won't hurt him. Two, it would also be because he's a coward and he shrank and froze and pleaded for his life. To the point that they just decided to spare him. Or three, it could also be that he was in on the whole thing. So the detectives had to be sure, and they pressed him. And it was in the course of pressing him that he would eventually begin to break down, and the whole mystery will start unraveling, because it will turn out, allegedly, that Elias would indicate that he actually is the one who got the two men to come and finish off Beau Shroyer. And then the question is, what is the motive for doing this? Beau Shroyer didn't have any record with Elias Bernardino, his security man, where maybe there was an account of him treating him badly, having a misunderstanding with him, having a fight with him. Beau Shroyer was the easygoing, peaceful guy. And bear in mind, Beau Shroyer is a former police officer, so he wouldn't be an easy target or an easy kill like that. It means that he was caught off guard, probably because he felt he was around trusted people. But what is the motive this 24-year-old security guy would have to drive him to eliminate his boss? And not just any boss, but a Christian missionary. At least you should remember God when you are planning evil against such a person. So what was the motive? And it would even blow everybody's mind when Elias Bernardino allegedly would reveal that the motive of the hit was that he is not even the mastermind. The mastermind is the wife of Beau Shroyer in the person of Jackie Shroyer, and that she contracted him, Elias Bernardino, to help her get rid of her husband. So the question again came up. What was the motive of her asking you to do that? What is the motive behind that? And why would you also agree? Elias Bernardino would go on to reveal that Jackie Shroyer and himself were having an illicit affair behind her husband. And Jackie Shroyer had apparently promised him 50,000 US dollars if he was able to do this thing and get rid of her husband. Now, that is the bombshell. So, the missionary's wife is now being accused by a self-confessed accessory to murder that she is the mastermind. This begins to become something very messy and scandalous, because then what was going on with the missionary work? Where is the gospel that she said they were spreading to parts of Africa in Angola? Is this part of that gospel? Because in all this, we never saw the devil. But here we have an allegation of a plot twist where the wife of the missionary is having an illicit affair behind her husband. And not just that, she has also planned to put a hit on him and get rid of him. She was then also arrested and is currently in police custody for further questioning. But all this begs more questions, and I'm going to get into it, because the first question is, how does a 44-year-old missionary wife begin to have an illicit sexual relationship behind her husband with a 24-year-old employee of hers? That is the question. But bear in mind, this is what Elias Bernardino has said. Jackie Shroyer in herself is yet to admit to any of the accusations that Elias Bernardino has leveled against her, and we'll come to that bit. But to the question I asked, why would she be having such a thing with this guy? Is she a freak in disguise? And that is what most people don't get when we talk about some of these things with regards to some people in the church. There are wolves in the church. Some people are sheep. Sheep, let me put it that way. S-H-E-E-P. They are meek, they are godlike, they are Christ-like. But others are also pretending in there with their own sinful and evil nature, waiting to pounce on people. I don't know what Jackie Shroyer saw in Elias Bernardino, but whatever it was, per Elias Bernardino's accusation, it was enough for her to have this affair with him. I don't know if she's into kids. He is not a kid, he's 24, but looking at the age difference, I don't know if she's a cougar in herself. These things are nasty. But I always say most people are wearing masks. If you find somebody who is straightforward with you, for me, I think it's golden when people are really themselves with you. If they don't like you, they see you, they frown. It's a blessing. That way, you can easily separate those who like you from those who don't like you, because the person is not pretending. It saves you the trouble of wondering what the person has in mind for you, and it makes your life easy dealing with the person. And I value that so much. It's the people who pretend to be something that they are not that makes life very dangerous. Because Beau Shroyer, even though he was a former police officer, didn't see this thing happening around him. His security guy was with him. His wife was with him. His 5 kids were with him and his wife, and she was still doing this thing, per what Elias Bernardino has accused her of. Now, the second question is, why would she put the hit out on her husband, as alleged by Elias Bernardino? And to this, currently there are 2 theories that are being looked at. The first is, Elias Bernardino is saying that they were having an illicit affair. if that is true, some people are of the view that the theory is that she wanted to eliminate her husband and be with Elias Bernardino because she didn't want to leave the country of Angola and go back to the US, or she wanted to just be with him and get him to the US with her. I don't think that is the case. And I'll tell you why when I get into the second theory. I don't think that is the case. I'm leaning more towards the fact that she played this guy with her coochie. She played him with her coochie, knowing very well that as young and naive probably as he is, if she can get him into her, I hope you get there, you get what I mean. If she can get him into her, she would have him wrapped around her finger to do whatever she wants. She probably already had that evil intention, but she didn't want to get her hands dirty. She needed somebody to do it. And these things are happening all around. There are several cases like that, where you have spouses getting people to love them so much, they will now turn them against their spouse so that they commit the crime, and they, the spouse that planned the hit, are sitting somewhere seemingly unassociated with the cause of the crime. These things are happening. It's coming from both wives and husbands. I don't believe a woman is more evil than a man or vice versa. I believe everybody is evil depending on where the person's mind and heart is. So this is not new, and that is what I am suspecting, that if she is actually guilty of this accusation, then the possibility or the motive is that she used this guy, got him into her, so he'll be wrapped around her finger, and she just manipulated him to do what he did. And that brings us to the second theory, where the motive for all that would have been that it was probably for her to cash in on life insurance that she would get as the widow to this deceased guy. Because bear in mind, they allegedly had sold everything they had to move to Angola. So what life were they going back to? Maybe they will have some few things they could get by with. But where was she going to get the $50,000 allegedly promised to Elias Bernardino to pay him for this hit? Definitely there would have been some payday from an insurance on the life of her husband. That is where I believe this could have been headed if she is actually guilty of the accusation Elias Bernardino has accused her of. But then, to the third question, how do the police prove that she is complicit in this crime? Because at the very least, if the accusation is true, she could be held on several possible charges, including conspiracy for murder, murder for hire, and a whole lot of things, And the question is, how would the police be able to prove this? Because if she was smart and there isn't any evidence to tie this back to her, everything will hang on Bernardino because he has already allegedly confessed. And that is where it becomes dangerous, because there's a similar case like that. I have it on my platform. You can check the playlist. And another missionary came to Liberia, Lucas Richards. Yeah, you can go to the playlist and just search. It's there. And he left his wife in the US, came to Liberia, and had an affair with a Liberian girl. Apparently, he allegedly got her pregnant, married her traditionally, aborted the baby, and allegedly tried to unalive her. He was arrested by some folks, sent to the police. He beat the case because of lack of evidence. That's not to say he's guilty, but he beat the case because of a lack of evidence. Evidence is everything. At the court, it's about what you can prove. It's not about what you believe is true. If you believe it's true, you should be able to prove it with evidence. And without evidence, your case will not stand. And that is why Elias Bernardino is in hot soup, because he is the one in the solid grasp of the law. Everything holds him firmly. If he is unable to find any evidence linking Jackie Shroyer to this crime, and the detectives are also unable to find any, then it is very likely that Elias Bernardino and the names of the two accomplices he has already given, those three are going to be held responsible for the murder of Beau Shroyer. Now, in all this, one group of people that most people are forgetting is the kids, the 5 children. Imagine the trauma involved in all this, where your dad is tragically eliminated like this at the hands of 2 assailants who will turn out to have been contracted by a security guy your dad employed, whom you lived with for about 3 years. You probably had some friendly relationship with this person. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the person starts confessing and reveals that it's your mom who has been having an illicit affair with him behind your dad and further contracted him to eliminate your dad. That is just too much for these kids to handle. And I don't understand why some people do these things when they have children. There is a line you don't cross. I always talk about this thing. There is a line you don't cross. It's about time that parents, especially couples with children, especially begin to understand that you can't be a parent or a spouse and still be selfish. Because your selfishness will create problems that will damage the entire family and scar them on a level you cannot repair. This is very unfortunate. And I'm following this case into the murder of Beau Shroyer, and any updates that come up, trust you me, I'll make them available to you. This is one of the cases that is so shameful, especially given the fact that the suspect and the person being accused as the mastermind in the person of Jackie Shroyer is the wife of a missionary. She's a fellow missionary. And to think that there's a possibility she might be guilty of having an illicit affair with her security guard and putting a hit on her husband, it's just distasteful. Subscribe if you are yet to do so. Turn on the post notifications. I'll catch you on the next one. But please, stay safe out there. Keep your eyes open, keep your head on a swivel, and be proactive. See you.